Hey guys, this is Hannah with 5MinChurch. We're here with Kevin Downs, the actor, producer, and writer. Thank you so much for being with us today.
What happened to amazing?
Well, actually, he is amazing. I just needed to give you a better intro on this one. We're talking today about your new film that you have out, Faith of Our Fathers. Tell us a little bit about where this story came from, and I know it's very dear to your heart, and where did that story come from?
Well, you know what? The story actually came from the director of the film, Kerry Scott. He's actually from San Diego, and he lives here. And you know, it was sort of inspired by something that happened to him in his real life, sort of a road trip he took in his early 20s with a couple of buddies from San Diego to the Wall in Washington, D.C. But the true events were nothing like what are in the movie. It was just sort of the idea and concept. And so David White and I, when Kerry had pitched that idea to us, we were like, you know what, we like that a lot. There's a number of reasons why we like it, but you know, in the movie, you know, you can't underestimate the role and the significance of fatherhood, and how much you know, fathers are so needed and so vital, not just for families, but in our society, in our culture. And you see that theme a lot in a lot of my movies.
You do Courageous and
Courageous.
I know you've done Mom's Night Out. There's quite a few that he's done quite a few of the movies, but that is the theme that I see that it kind of portrays in each of the films that you do.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's but not only that, you know what, the two things that really kind of my heart's desire for the film. Number one was to honor veterans in a way that I have never seen before in a film, and you know, cross section that with the gospel in a way that I've never presented it before. And so, you know, and I can't get enough of it. I mean, I've seen the film. When you make a film, you see it 1,000 times or more. I mean, you see it a lot. And you know, I was at a screening just a couple nights ago and popped my head in, and it was the gospel scene, and I just sat and watched it, and it's really humbling, you know, to be able to have the opportunity to, you know, share the gospel on a platform in a film that's going to go all over the world eventually, and it's just humbling. I mean,
absolutely.
You know, to be honest, I don't know really what to say, and to see the ministry, even, you know, we haven't released yet. We released on July 1st in theaters, but to see the ministry that has gone on just in some of the the pre-release screens that we've done has been really humbling, and a little bit of a gut check, to be honest, because it takes so long to make a movie. Like, this movie took 7 years.
Wow.
Which is a little bit abnormal, but actually not, because Boyhood took longer. So I haven't set the record yet, but you know, a film becomes like a child to you, because it takes you so long, and you invest so much emotion and so much of yourself into the process. That when it comes time to kind of let it go and to release it to the world, there's a lot of emotions that go through you as a filmmaker as that time goes. And when you see the ministry, I mean, you just get overwhelmed. You get incredibly overwhelmed, and because you're not only feeling for the person that it's impacting, but you're also feeling for the work that you've done over years.
Absolutely.
And you're seeing that come together and culminate in a moment.
So what are those emotions that you feel? Because I mean, obviously, from birthing it to, I mean, 7 years is a long time to not take your eyes off of a project. I know, because we all want instant gratification, and so how do you not lose hope on a project that you're working on?
Oh, it's easy to lose hope. I mean, I mean, every film, you know, you go through a process going, is this worth it? I mean, what am I doing? But God has a way of guiding, you know, in my journey, guiding my steps, and kind of not taking me over that limit where I'm going to throw in the towel, even though I'm going to get frustrated.
Takes you right to that point, and then he goes, okay.
And then he goes, okay, you need something here. And it doesn't mean we're not going to hurt or feel pain or whatnot, but certainly he knows the limits that I'm able to have. And what I love about it is that, you know, once you figure that out, you start to embrace those moments going, okay, this is one of those periods of my life where it's going to hurt, but God, I know that you have a plan. You know, you have an ultimate reason why this is hurting right now, or we're going through this specific area in life, and it's usually, at least I've seen, you know, not everything is answered in the way that we expect, but it's cool when you see his plan and it makes sense to you.
Absolutely.
And it's always going to be in His timing.
Sometimes it doesn't make sense in the moment, and
Yeah.
you have to kind of step back, and later on, you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get what
I'm
that
so
kind of.
dumb.
We are.
Now
We
I
really
get it.
are.
Yeah.
We really are in a sense. I love what you said, honoring the veterans. I feel like we don't honor, and even in America, when they come home, I feel like we don't give them the respect, and they're laying their lives down. And for what we have, we look out here and how beautiful that this backdrop is, but we have this because of them. And how are you guys honoring them with this show? I know it's the movie, but how are you guys honoring the veterans through this?
Well, again, it's being able to tell a story that just like one example is, it's not just about the two soldiers, but also about their two sons that are left behind, and really remembering the families that these soldiers leave behind, especially when they're going out and sacrificing their own life and putting it all out on the line so that we can have the freedoms we have today. And oftentimes in movies, the soldier stories are told, but then you never realize the hurt and the fallout of that sacrifice doesn't just end on the battlefield. It actually is brought home. And so that's what I love about this film is we address that and we honor that in a way that's really sweet and poignant, that also puts the gospel in there as a healing, because it's the gospel. It can heal. I mean,
right.
God can heal, and that's why He sent His Son to die on a cross for us, so that we would have that healing and that peace in our life. And that's what I love about it. And so far, it's you never know, the work that you do if it's going to work. But I've been so humbled by the stories that have come from some veterans that have seen it so far. So.
Oh, that's so neat. And we had the honor of watching and seeing one of the premieres that you had. And thank you for the invite, by the way. That was so neat. But you could look around and see. And I actually sat next to a veteran during that premiere and the screening, and he was just sobbing. And it broke my heart because a lot of times we don't see, that's Vietnam. How many years ago was that? That's Vietnam, and how that pain is still right there and it's still so real. And I think the guys that came back from Vietnam didn't get the support and the love from us when they came home. And so to see that, it was so neat because it was so moving and so touching, not only for me, but also for the veteran that was sitting next to me. And his heart was just, you could tell it was just so raw and so real.
Yeah, in fact, yesterday I was sitting in my living room going over some of the letters that we've received already.
Oh,
just from
I can
people
imagine.
that have seen it. And one was from a woman whose husband served in Vietnam, and she poignantly said, "This was such a perfect film. I still hold my husband's letters, and they're one of the things that are closest to my heart." And
so true.
And so even from that standpoint, it brought back maybe some positive memories of the war.
Yeah, absolutely.
That couple had together, and they were able to just sort of revisit a happier time.
Absolutely.
Which I hadn't thought about, to be honest. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's a new
I can only imagine the stories that are going to come out of it.
Yeah.
I know my mother, her high school sweetheart went away to Vietnam, and he was killed. And they knew before he left that he wasn't probably going to be coming back. And to this day, she still hangs on to his flag and his letters and the same thing. And it's very, it's right there. And she's so excited, by the way, for this movie to come out because I don't think there has been a movie that has portrayed these veterans from Vietnam the way that they need to be portrayed. But I love the gospel message that you have behind it, that the gospel can heal.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing in these movies that you do. So tell me something. I always wanted to ask you this. By the way, Kevin and I went to the same high school. So he is a little older than me, and so I do respect my elders. But we went to the same high school and found that out later on. But did you know that you were going to go into media your entire life, or Christian media? What do we not know about Kevin?
In high school, I was terrified of crowds, so let's just get that out there.
Okay. You do a great job, I'll say.
No, I was terrified. Oh yeah, I would. I was everywhere. I was in. You look through the yearbooks, and I was all over the place. But I would
very popular.
I would figure out ways to not get up in front of people. I was terrified of speaking in front of people. And, I did, again, it's God's sense of humor. It's like, I didn't know what acting was until I think the back half of my junior year and then really my senior year. And I was like, oh, you actually get to perform and you get a grade for it. Like a light bulb just sort of went on. And at our high school we had such an amazing drama teacher and drama program that was really influential in the early part of my life and really my love for the arts and what I'm doing. And so I didn't know what LA or Hollywood, or I had no idea. I'm like, people get paid to act. That was just, Visalia is just
very small country town. It's
little small town. So in college, when I majored in theater my first 2 years in college and fell in love with it. And then when I went to LA in my early 20s and did the whole thing of auditions and trying to find my way, God, carefully placed me in a great church and a great small group. I started meeting friends, and when I was cast in my first Christian film, I was 22 years old, so I didn't have to wait long. So that's nice, and that was it. As soon as I saw the words on the page that also correlated with what my heart was, I was like, this is incredible. How come there aren't more of these? And there weren't. There was nothing at the time. This is back in the early 90s, and I think my heart's desire was, God, if there was a way I could do this for the rest of my life, this is what I would want to do. Even though there was no plan. There was absolutely no plan. And it took another 4 years before a buddy of mine, David White, and we decided to, hey, let's produce a movie together. We have no idea how to produce a movie. And, somebody write it, somebody direct it, and, we'll go raise like $20,000 to shoot it, not knowing what a budget was or what crew was, I had no idea. But again, what we did was we got on our knees and we prayed before every meeting together. And I kid you not, and that's like God gets totally the glory for that first project because we didn't know anything other than how to act, but that doesn't mean you know how to make a movie. And so, and that movie ended up being such a ministry that we had no idea was going to happen. It was called The Moment After, a little movie that we shot in Visalia. And then also just sort of a training ground for something greater and even bigger that God had in store, through this journey as long as he has us here, which is really cool. It's really, nothing was handed to me in my journey. And so anybody that wants to, I did a Q&A last night and people asked that, and you could see the hunger and the desire in people's hearts when they really want to explore and do something, have a vision and a passion in their heart. And I'm like, man, go chase it, but have the patience, because you don't know the timing that it's going to work out, but God does know the timing. If you have the patience and you trust him fully with your heart, I believe that he will give you the desires of your heart. But it can't be something that's not, I mean, it's got to be true and it's got to be real. And then there'll be a way that it gets worked out.
Well, and stepping out in faith, obviously you stepped out in faith and but a lot of times people give up in that very last moment before they actually make it. And it's like, if they would just continue to have patience, but faith is so real as stepping out.
I see it a lot. I mean, people give up after 6 months or a year, or maybe even 2 years. How do you do this and that? It's like, I've been doing this 20 years.
Yeah.
So
you're a veteran. You're a seasoned veteran.
Well, it's not like it's, not that I've had huge success or whatever, but but the thing is, it's God still figures out a path and a way to continue to make films and stories, that honor him and really spread the guts. It's the Great Commission. I mean, we're putting the gospel into all reaches, all areas of the earth. And that's the desire. That's truly is the desire, and it's exciting that that's actually happening because we don't have to actually peddle our films all over the country or all over the world. Where there is actually an infrastructure in place to get them out there, and the fact that that's happening is amazing. I mean, my last film, even Courageous, but Mom's Night Out, Courageous, you're talking a major studio is putting these movies in countries
that is
all over the place, right?
Amazing to hear that. And that it's actually, I have a personal story to share with you on Courageous. And you may not know some of the stories that happened, but Courageous, my son grew up without a father. And when that movie, he saw the trailer for that movie and he watched it. That kid was at the first night he was at that show in San Diego. He was there every single night watching that show. He went out and bought copies after copies, giving out to fathers to either encourage them to continue being a good father, or the ones that needed to step up and be fathers. And I'm like, next time you have me come in and watch a movie like this, please let me know, because I was sobbing, crying. I wasn't prepared for the message, but that it inspired him. He, as an actor, he was doing acting and to do movies that are very impacting, and that's what you're
Yeah.
doing. You're touching lives. You don't know
Mm.
all the stories and
Right.
the lives that you're touching, but you're stepping out and being faithful. And so I just want to thank you for doing that, and for this young generation that thinks that they need to be like the Kardashians, or that this is one more question I would love to ask you. How did you stay, and I know it is who you are, but how did you not give into Hollywood and lose yourself through that?
You know what? I have a good story for that. I don't know if I've ever told, but why not right now?
Yes, this is the time.
Why not right now? I was 2 months before I got cast in the movie The Crossing, which was my first Christian film. It was just a short film, a 30-minute film that Youth for Christ put out, but it's gone all over the world.
Yeah.
Literally in many languages, and thousands and thousands of teens have come to Christ through that film. It's incredible, since 1994. And so 2 months before that happened, I had an audition for a film and was offered the role, and it was sort of like a coming of age. Again, I'm 22 years old, looking like I'm 18, and sort of that coming of age type of movie. And there was a scene like I had to get. You don't see any private parts, but you had to get take all your clothes off in a lake or something like that, and whatever it was. It wasn't a sex scene, but it was still, for me, it was uncomfortable. And I prayed so hard through that decision before I gave the casting director or the director, whoever was handling it for me, my answer. And at the end of it, again, I had never acted in a Christian film. I didn't know, but I knew what the desire in my heart was. And at the end, I decided to turn it down, and it blew them away. I mean, they were like, "You're turning this down? Why?" And I told them why. I said, "Look, I don't expect you to change your material, but for me, it's just so important. I can't do that specific scene.
Wow.
And it wouldn't work for me."
Wow.
And I wasn't being dogmatic about it. I was trying to be very respectful for what they were wanting to do. I mean, literally, and that was part of my struggle was like not to come across as something that it was just something that I felt inside, and I didn't think it was honoring to God to do it. And 2 months later, had the audition for The Crossing, and against hundreds and hundreds of kids that looked like me, and then, of course, then me and David White got cast as the two leads, and that started it all. I mean, that was just, then it was like, what, God gave me the desire in my heart.
Oh, amen.
By being,
but you didn't sell your
him.
soul,
Yeah,
and that you were honoring, and that God will. And it's so, I love that story. That is a beautiful story, because a lot of times you want to, you get this role, and you think that this is it, and why would I want to give this up? But yet God had something better for you.
And that was the last time that I've never been really, there's been no test. Not that I haven't been offered roles, but if I get offered stuff, there's no temptation. Like, there is no temptation anymore. Like, I had mine. I had my temptation. It was a long time ago. And there is just, so, like, to answer your question, like the whole thing of not, like, there is no other side for me, because it doesn't attract me at all. That's awesome. So, but I'm also 43, so
I've
been doing this a while, so it's like,
Yes.
But again, my heart goes out to those, especially believers that are in their early 20s. Maybe they're trying to figure something out in this industry, and my answer is just, look, seek God first, and allow Him to provide the answer for you, and He will. He'll be faithful about it.
Amen. That's so good. So as we close, I just want you to speak to our 5-Minute Church app users, and what would you say to them, for those that are struggling with, I know you've faced a lot of giants, speaking of facing the giants, like you faced a lot of giants personally and professionally in life. What would be the thing that you would encourage them for those that are struggling today?
Well, I think it's just that. I mean, and one of my life verses.
I was just going to ask you your life verse, so
yeah,
I love it.
Well, it's on my wedding ring, which is not on because I often take it off in my sleep. But my wife and I got our wedding rings in Israel, and they're in Hebrew, and it's really sweet. And so mine is Proverbs 3:5, and it's in Hebrew on my ring, and it's trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. Amen. And that's it. It's just like, trust in the Lord. Don't try to figure it out by yourself.
So good.
Because we don't know what we're doing. I
mean,
we don't. We don't.
We think we do, but we don't.
Think we do, but we don't. And just God He is a good God. He's an amazing God. It's like He gives us everything abundantly, and and it's awesome to see. And you know, what's fun is just to see how silly we are.
I know. Well, we limits. I think sometimes we put limits on God.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, he's limitless, and we
Yeah.
put the limits on.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here with us today,
Sure.
Kevin. You have got to see his show, July 1st. Faith of Our Fathers will be in theaters near you. Go check it out. We're so excited.
faithofourfathersmovie.com to find the theater listing near you. But July 1st, it's a Wednesday. It's a 5-day weekend. Take your family, take your relatives, take your friends. It's a film that everyone can enjoy.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We so appreciate you
Thanks.
being here.
It's good to catch up.
Yeah.